Oh, hello, and welcome to the start of another reading vlog. I think this is going to be a FairyLoot reading vlog, because I'm not really sure where else to put this book, but I'm halfway through Spice Road by Maya Ibrahim and absolutely adoring this so far. So you're following 17-year-old Imani, and I will also just note that this is a young adult fantasy inspired by Middle Eastern mythology, which is part of why I was drawn to this. I tend to adore adult and young adult fantasies inspired by Middle Eastern mythology. I just have really adored a fair handful of the ones that I've read, and so thought that I would enjoy the vibes in this one, and I very much am. As I mentioned, you're following 17-year-old Imani. Before the story starts, her brother had been caught smuggling a spice, and the spice is kind of the main source of magic. It's used in a tea. There's a tea ceremony at the beginning of the book, so that's a huge part of this. And her brother was caught smuggling some of this spice outside their borders, outside of their territory, to people that they think are dangerous. And soon after that, he disappears, and there haven't really been good answers to the questions that she and her sister have been trying to find out about what happened to him. And she and her sister have been dealing with this in very different ways. It's kind of caused a rift between them. And at the start of the story, her sister is kind of acting out a bit. Imani's response was to join the guard, and the guard is designed to protect this realm from magical creatures and demons that are kind of outside, and use the spice to kind of harness their magic. Imani's has an affinity with the knife that she uses, and there are several other kinds of affinities for different magic. And she is trying to chase her sister at the start of the story, who has kind of started to act out and, started to run away a little bit with her horse, and Imani is trying to chase her down. They come across a place where it's clear some people have been held up or kind of used as a home base, and they find some information there that indicates that her brother might be alive and might have been. So hoarding spice can kind of be a sign of magical obsession, but this information kind of makes it clear that there's a potential that he had been smuggling it to some rebel forces in another kingdom, because that kingdom is under attack. And so he might have joined up with some rebel forces in another land, and she's trying to figure out what is going on. And so she essentially embarks on a journey to figure out what has happened to her brother. In the midst, there's the audiobook narrator pronounces it Jenny, a Jen type of character who has information about her brother, and she essentially has to bind herself to this Jenny, or actually bind the Jenny to her knife that she uses, that she channels her magic through, in order to try to get more information about where her brother is, and has to bring this Jenny along for the ride, but has to do it secretly, because the guard that she is in, part of the point of this group and part of what they're sworn to do is kill any Jenny. And so she has to kind of do this in secret, because there are other people who are going to be going with her on this quest. Anyway, so they're setting off on a journey to figure out more information about her brother, try to track him down, and bring him back to answer questions about what's been going on, why he's been doing that, what's going on in these other lands. And we'll see, is the council not telling her everything about what's going on? Yeah, we'll see. I'm enjoying the vibes. I think the vibes are super fun. The world is fun and just colorful and lush and just really entertaining. And the writing style has been pretty straightforward, very easy to get into. I think the characters have been entertaining to follow. I'm just having a great time. I'm just having a lot of fun. This was, again, the exact just vibes that I wanted from this story. it's delivering for me. So very excited, and I will check in once I have either gotten further into or finished this one. So I did finish Spice Road, and honestly, I adored this so much. It was so much fun. I think if you combined The Stardust Thief and City of Brass, this is a combination of those two books, which, yes, I know are also kind of drawing on similar mythology, but they really do have kind of the vibes and some of the storytelling elements and some of the structure tropes of those two series. And I think if you enjoyed those, I really do think you will enjoy this one a lot. The writing was fun, the world building super fun, rich, and just, I don't know, I love Middle Eastern inspired just travel adventure fantasies. I don't know, just they work for me, or at least quite a few of the ones that I've read have worked for me, and this one definitely did. Just fun twists and turns, and I'm intrigued by where things left off. And yeah, I'm intrigued by where things left off, and I don't know, I'm very hopeful for the next one to pick up where we left off and kind of go on the next part of the adventure. It doesn't leave off on a cliffhanger, so you know, if you don't like series to leave off on huge cliffhangers, it doesn't. It does kind of wrap up some things about the story. There's a very clear direction of where things are going, but it doesn't necessarily leave off on a cliffhanger. It wraps some things up, and then it's like, and now we are going to enter this part of the journey. And I'm very excited for where it's going. I also have read another book. I needed to squeeze a small one in at the end of March here, and it's right before the day before the Magical Readathon starts, and I had just finished this one actually, and I had a little bit of time left. I needed something else relatively short to last me through just before the Magical Readathon, and so I picked up Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett and absolutely adored this one. So this follows Emily Wilde, who is an academic, and it is very much here are my journals and recollections of events that go on. She's going to a very northern country, so very wintry vibes, very winter whimsical vibes. And she's going to chronicle the Fae in this portion of the world to work on some interesting things that are going on there and have an academic perspective of it go into her encyclopedia. And she goes to this remote area. She is getting to know the people in the town. She's, she doesn't really pick up on social cues as well as the people around her, and kind of struggles with social interactions. She's very much academically minded, and that is her purpose behind the mission, and why she's going where she is. And so she wants to have interactions with the Fae in that area, and she wants to learn more. She knows a lot about the folklore of the Fae in that region, has read a lot of stories, read a lot of the histories, read a lot of academic texts. And this is also historical. It takes place early 1900s, so kind of historical, remote northern area vibes. And she originally goes alone with her and her dog, Shadow, who I adore. But she's then joined by another academic that is one of the people at the university that she works for. And she's not really expecting it. She's not really expecting him to actually make the trek and actually do the work. She kind of perceives him as someone who has kind of gotten along based on reputation, but hasn't backed that up with as much work as she has. And but she does recognize that he has a big name in this space academically, and if he helps her, he's got reasons for wanting to help her, and she has reasons for wanting him to kind of lend his kind of academic prowess to what she's doing. And so they, work together. So as they're working in this area, some things start happening, some mysteries need to be unraveled. She starts to uncover some things about his identity, and there's kind of a mystery there, and things start happening with fairies, and she's learning a lot about this town and its people, and starting to learn just a lot in the process. And their interactions are super cute. I adore them. The dog, the town. There's a lot that happens with the Fae, and there's shenanigans that goes on there that's just fun. And I just had a great time with it. The audiobook was super great. The narrator is fantastic. It is definitely a very academic writing style, because this is supposed to be her academic journals. And so the writing style is definitely very kind of unique to the way that Heather Fawcett wanted to tell the story. So if the writing style, I can definitely see it being off-putting for some. I really liked it, but yeah, so much fun. So that is getting caught up with this vlog. I am going to be reading some FairyLoots in the process of doing the magical readathon, but we'll see. I'm sure more are going to be coming in, so I'm sure that post the magical readathon I'll be picking some FairyLoots back up. So this vlog might not actually be coming out for a while, but we'll pick it back up after the magical readathon. So I've read a couple more FairyLoot books, so I will quickly chat about them. One is City of Nightmares by Rebecca Schaefer, and this one follows, I really enjoyed this one. This one follows Ness, and Ness, before the story starts, when she was 13 years old, witnessed, was it 13? She was younger anyway. Years before the story starts, she witnesses her sister turn into a monster, a spider, basically, a spider-like creature, and basically eat part of her family and, go on a killing rampage. So in this world, if you fall asleep and don't have certain protections, or if you haven't taken certain precautions, you can dream. And if you dream, you can become your nightmare, whatever you most fear. So if you most fear spiders, you can become a spider. And if you most fear a vampire, you could become a vampire. And not everyone's worst fears or becoming a nightmare doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to become violent and harm people, but a subset of people who become nightmares might in fact become violent, like her sister did, and hurt people. And so there's a substance in the water that everyone drinks in the city called Newham, and there's a substance that is in the water that prevents people from becoming their nightmares. And based on what she's been through, Ness not only drinks that water, but she also takes additional medicine, basically, to just make absolutely sure that she will not turn into a nightmare. And since what happened with her family, she has found refuge in an organization that basically works to protect people from nightmares and offers therapy to people who have gone through something like what Ness has gone through. And so she's kind of found refuge in that organization, not because she is kind of fully invested in the doctrine of this organization, but she gets to have room and board and food, and basically she gets to survive. And she also gets to live by herself in a single room. So she doesn't need to worry about someone that is in the room sleeping becoming a nightmare. She feels more protected. And so through circumstances at the beginning of the story, she ends up taking mail and going on a ship to deliver some mail, and the ship explodes. So there's an explosion, and everyone but her and someone that she finds out is a nightmare and a vampire, they're the only two survivors of this explosion. And so she's trying to figure out, you know, what happened, what was this explosion, you know, why did we survive? At first she is, based on her history, not trusting of the nightmare, the vampire that also survived. She doesn't trust him, but he does help bring her to safety after this explosion. And she very reluctantly starts to trust him and work with him because he's also kind of tied up in the situation and figuring out what happened, why that ship exploded. As she's starting to try to learn more, like, people are starting to target her, and so she figures that people are going to start targeting him. And so they're working together to figure out what's going on. And she finds out that, you know, certain people she thought she could trust, she couldn't necessarily trust, and are involved in more sinister things than she suspected. And it was just a very interesting and unique world, and I actually really had a great time with it. And I did listen to the audiobook. Saskia Marveld, I believe is how you say her name. She narrates the audiobook, and she's one of my favorites. She is just an impeccable narrator, and so I really enjoyed listening to the audiobook, so would recommend, just based on who the narrator is. And yeah, it was just fun. It was a different, just unique vibe that I just haven't seen in a lot of YA fantasy, and there was just some super interesting elements. One, I thought the relationship between the two main characters that very, very slowly starts to develop. I really enjoyed the pace of their interactions. I thought it was kind of a natural, because she is not just, you know, a little hesitant about nightmares. Like, she literally saw a nightmare murder her family, and so she has a very deep-seated fear that she has gone through years of therapy to try to work through. And you know, she has gone through years of therapy, so she's in a better place, but still is not trusting of nightmares. And so, you know, it's very hard for her to put her trust at all in a nightmare. But I just thought that dynamic, I thought that progression was slow and interesting, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the investigation element. I enjoyed the world building. I just thought it was interesting. There are some interesting elements too, like, there's not just one type of vampire. So based on what people fear or what people, you know, conjure in their mind when they think of a vampire, which can be different things for different people, there might be different elements that they mentally have incorporated into what they think of when they think of a vampire. And so, you know, there are different strains of or types of vampires that can have different characteristics and manifest different things in different ways. And so it's just super interesting, and I had a great time and kind of got sucked into the world here. So if that at all sounds interesting, would recommend the audiobook in particular. I also read The Foxglove King, which is another one that I really enjoyed. This is by Hannah Witten, and this is the first Hannah Witten that I've read, but I will definitely look forward to checking out her backlist. And in this one, you're following Lore. Lore was born in the catacombs beneath the city that she lives in, and has a special affinity to mortem, which is kind of a death magic. And so at first she's kind of running errands for some people who have helped raise her since her family died. And, you know, so she's being basically, she has a different task that the people who raised her and protect her, you know, they're sending her on a slightly different task. So she's going to do that task, and she's going to try to help someone get through this task, and things go wrong, and she is actually captured and brought to the king. So this magic is, and especially the level of affinity that she has for it, it's not supposed to be used. And so she could actually get in a lot of trouble and face severe consequences for using this magic. So she's brought to the king after being captured, and she fully expects to either be potentially killed or exiled or in some way bad things to happen. But instead, when she reaches the king basically offers her a deal where he will allow her to kind of stay in and kind of become part of the court politics for a couple of reasons. One, so it's the king and kind of the head of the religious order both want her to do something. So there are some people who are dying in cities across the kingdom. Have been some instances where just mass amounts of people are dying, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. And the king also suspects that his son is actually acting as a spy for another kingdom. And so she has been tasked with kind of getting close to him and figuring out if that's true. The king's son is named Bastion, and she's also gets to know someone named Gabe, who is a duke, formerly a duke, and is now in this religious order that I was referencing earlier. So he's basically a former duke turned monk, and he, for reasons, is kind of also tied up in this. And so the two of them are supposed to be investigating Bastion, the king's son, to figure out what's going on. She wants to use her death magic to try to figure out what's going on with the large number of people that are getting killed in other cities. And then, it's getting integrated into court life, getting to know some other people, getting close to Bastion, figuring out that things are more complicated than she thought. Can she actually trust the people that she, thought she might be able to trust? Who is correct? Who is acting in the best interest of the people? Like, who can she trust and follow? And, who should she be working with? And so she's trying to figure all of that out as she's getting integrated into court life. And it's fun. It was super fun. The vibes and the atmosphere and the world, I think, here were super cool and really what drew me to the story. I think the writing was really good, not flowery or, purple prose in any way. It was pretty simple and easy to get into, but I think really good writing. And I really just enjoyed following these characters. There is an element of kind of a love triangle developing, but I actually enjoyed it. And yeah, I just had a really fun time with this one. Again, I think the vibes and the atmosphere are what I was in this one for. I think this would be perfect for spooky season. So if that intrigues you, would highly recommend. So I think I will wrap the vlog up here and go ahead and edit what I have so far. I think I've read 4 books for this vlog, so I think that's a good point to go ahead and edit what I have and post this. And then, of course, as I read more FairyLoots, then I'm sure will be more vlogs like this in the future. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. These were some huge hits for me, so I've really enjoyed what FairyLoot has been sending my way recently, so we love that. But yeah, let me know if you've read any of these books, and be sure to subscribe for more bookish content. I will leave more information down below. And yeah, again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.